auspicious beginning. What a fortuitous omen to part 3 of the French Revolution. Am I right?
Mm.
I've
Yeah,
always thought that the perfect metaphor for the terror was cat puke. You
was
know?
cat puke. I mean,
Yeah.
it is. It is. It is certainly. It comes from a guttural place, and I think that the
It's
terror
kind
came
of
from a guttural place also.
yes,
You know what I
yes,
mean?
and was a regurgitation of sorts, a
Mhm.
social regurgitation. They had swallowed too many bad ideas, which were then processed and rejected by the body as a whole. Correct, and it was nasty and it was gross, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's we'll talk about it. We'll get
Anyway, let's get right on into it. Really though, heads will roll. We're gonna start part 3,
Yeah.
Act 1, New Absolutes.
I just wanted to remind everybody he does these. I don't.
That's right. I love it. It's fun. September 2nd of 1792, the war is going on still between this joint alliance of the Prussians and Austria against specifically the revolutionary government. And in that war, on the aforementioned date, the news of the fall of Verdun comes in. The Paris section assemblies are demanding the death of conspirators before the departure of citizens, because they're footing the bill, so to speak, to as to why they're losing this war, saying we've got internal conspirators, they're ratting us out, they're the reason that we're losing this war. Before we send more boys to the front, let's go ahead and take care of this fifth column that the enemy clearly has amongst our ranks. The result being the September massacres. About 1,400 people are executed, basically just by the mob. It's a lot of like prison emptying and common criminals, as well as regular criminals, as well as prostitutes, beggars, political prisoners, of course. Some priests are killed, and I think 43 children as well.
Yeah, they don't really. Yeah, they just went to the jails and got everybody out. It wasn't like a whole. They weren't. It wasn't like particularly aimed at certain like people, although it was supposedly that's what the feeling was.
Yeah.
No, they just went and just emptied the jails and then just murdered everybody.
Yeah.
And that's like, that's the no.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do that.
The feeling was the feeling that these people feel suspicious, and we got to put them to the sword. I don't know. This dude looks kind of sketchy. Let's just kill him, because
everybody in prison, we just gonna murder them. That's never, I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on. That's not a good
usually not. No,
not a good idea.
Yeah. And it's also like not even just political prisoners. Like there are stories of people like prostitutes on the streets who just kind of get swept up in this current.
Yeah. Oh, they emptied all the cell blocks,
and mutilated,
all the cell blocks, the political prisoner cell block, the like I'm just like, I got financial crimes, I'm a debtor, and then they went all the way down to like, this is county, you was in here for a DUI, you also got taken out and murdered.
Yes,
like,
you're traitor to the nation, you're corrupting of the moral health of the new nation. You gotta go. And I was like, oh shit.
There's a lot.
And like people's families and stuff. They start targeting people's families a little later on, but we'll get to that. This is also around the time when Jean-Paul Marat in the L'Ami des Peuples, a friend of the people, his main mouthpiece, his newspaper, he starts just calling for the open death of priests and Swiss guards. He's like, if you know priest, just kill him. Just do the nation a favor, just go kill a priest. Kill a priest, why don't you? Give it a try.
Are there
what's the worst that could happen, right?
Are there certain groups of French society at this time working against the revolution and counter-revolutionary fact? Oh yeah, that's happening. That's happening. But the detective work is a little bit lacking. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those examples I wanted to bring up where Jean-Paul Marat is just kind of expressing his love for himself the only way he knows how, I want to say, which is just by saying crazy shit, just by increasing the amounts of extremism, because he's getting off on it,
there's always there were a lot of people casting aspersions.
Yeah, for real.
There was a lot of casting of aspersions out there.
It's funny. He ends up like getting tried for some of his rhetoric, which we'll talk about that a little later. And he's like, oh, I wasn't literal. I was speaking metaphorically. I was saying metaphorically, you have to kill the priest inside of yourself. You have to kill your bonds. I was being ironic, which is the
It's,
same fucking defense that edgelords use on like 4chan and shit. Is like, I wasn't being literal. I was just being ironic. It's like, okay, cool.
I
Let's just
mean,
blur all lines of truth altogether. It's all right.
I
What could go
mean,
wrong?
yeah, no, I mean that's, I mean, yeah, I always, you know what I mean? You just gotta think about it. When you think
Yeah,
about
man.
it, you know that
Yep.
I wasn't even saying that.
Yep.
And
I
that's
was. Yep.
and I wasn't even saying that. So like, damn, Doug, that's
You're.
crazy.
In fact, you're stupid. Well, you're stupid if
That's
you thought that I meant literally.
yeah, yeah.
That's what
I
you
like
know,
that.
you dumbass.
I like that. I like, man. It's just all throughout the years, you could just lie.
Just gaslight them.
You could always lie. Like
Yeah, man.
that's always an option.
I didn't do it.
Yeah.
He's like, no, well, I mean, he says he didn't do it. So what are we doing?
You can always lie, dude.
Same month, September 1792, some victories start to roll in against the Prussians at Valmy. Specifically, the Prussian forces retreat, and this is like a part of a couple victories, which are huge PR triumphs for the commune. They start rallying patriotic fervor to the new regime, and they kind of throw this yoke of the Universal Brotherhood of Liberty, they call it, onto Belgium and Netherlands and say, we're now going to liberate the underclasses of Belgium and Netherlands as well. So they're kind of opportunistically employing the rhetoric to justify expansionism.
Yeah. I mean,
the way I see it.
Yeah. And they are, when you read like a kind of what they were saying, it's very reminiscent of like kind of a communist, like, like the people will like kind of like the people kind of waking up and like seizing the means of production.
Yeah,
kind of, it's very much like that same thing. Like it's going to be a global revolution. For the French Revolution is just the first part of what's going to be a domino effect all over the world. But like, I mean, they were still like colonialists at the same time. Like they still had colonies. They still like owned slaves. So it's like, are you really mean that? Like there's people who meant that, and I think there's people who were like, I mean that, and I also want these colonies, and I want expansion. And
there's not a doubt in my mind that some of them believed it.
Yeah. No, for
some of them for sure, especially rank and file. Absolutely. They were behind it. Whether those pulling the levers, whether they believed it wholeheartedly, altruistically.
Yeah.
It gets a little blurrier the farther you go up the political ladder.
For sure.
Same month, there are elections to the convention. And this is like the new national convention is divided into three main sections. You have the mountain, which the Jacobins, they're called that because they sit on this like higher up perch in the room itself. There's the plain, which obviously is like the ground floor. They're kind of like the center. They vote by individual persuasion. If you had to make it like a modern metaphor, they seem to me like quote unquote independents.
Yeah.
And then there's the Girondins or the Girondists. Many of these delegates are from port cities. They kind of resent the urban dictation of Paris, and they're very anti-mob rule. In fact, they're really holding the Jacobins' feet to the fire regarding mob rule and are saying, are you guys going to handle this? Because this is getting a little out of control. Can you guys even handle this? And so on.
This is the sense of mise en scene in the French, even in the French political system, like the kind of like the theater of like the way these people are seated is very, it's very interesting.
November to December of 1792, you have the trial of King Louis the 16th. There's the big question in the convention is, can we even try this dude? There's still some vestiges of veneration for King Louis the 16th, and he's kind of untouchable. Could we really try him? Would that be an usurpation? Is that too far? And they ultimately do proceed with his trial. Their charges that his removal to St. Cloud was an escape attempt, which maybe not. That he moved his Swiss guards to the Tuileries as part of a coup. I would argue he did so to fend off a coup. And Louis maintaining his innocence in inviolability. You can't try me. I'm the king. How dare you? And
Yeah.
then there's this one delegate, this young boy, young whippersnapper, aged 26 at this, or I think that's when he dies, age 26. I don't know, like when his birthday, 25, 26, whatever, named Louis Antoine Saint Just.
Yeah.
And he says his argument, he's a Jacobin. He's like pretty much, I want to say, he's like Robespierre's little brother. Not literally, but metaphorically.
Yeah.
And his argument is that the king exists outside of the nation now. We've gone thus far to establish this new thing called the nation, and we've cloaked every person within France, as we now know it, under the yoke of citizenship.
Yeah.
We don't have a king anymore. So to execute him is really just to kill something that already doesn't exist. It's like a necessary surgical procedure. You know, you've got this abscess or this skin tag, and we're just getting rid of a skin tag here.
I mean, there's I just always think of it as, from what I read, The People's History by Hazan. I just always look at it like they had no choice, dude. They had already, this dude had already tried to escape, and and he had, they're fighting a war against a army. Who's like for like a royalist army, and they're trying to spread republicanism. And if he's just there, sitting there, he's a reason that, you know, people could come and restore him. There's always going to be a royalist faction underneath them. There's always, but if you eliminate him, which you've already done, you're already at war. Like,
yeah,
what's the upside of keeping him? And that kind of, but at the same time, like, yo, he was a person, damn dog.
Yeah. So on January 15th of 1793, they do an oral vote, which is demanded by Jean-Paul Marat to expose internal traitors on the king's guilt. Three issues: the king's guilt, his right to appeal, and the sentence itself. There are 749 deputies, 693 vote for guilt. So it's pretty unquestionable. There's only like 50 or 60 guys who say, I don't know. The right to they defeat his right to appeal. And of 721 delegates present and voting, 361 vote for unconditional death. So that wins out, but they were more united on his guilt than on his sentence.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to be like, hey, I just voted to kill the king. Like, that's a lot.
The king, man.
Yeah, especially you grew up in this country. Like, you once reverenced the king at a certain point, probably, and then like fell as you read, you know, did all your shit.
Yeah,
you felt out contention, but like, damn, yeah,
we're doing it.
Everybody talk about being right or die. This is the moment.
Yeah, it's like it is like nearly. I think it had just turned a millennium, 1,000 years. I think that's a millennium of royal rule, of royal blood since Charlemagne. And now you're saying we're done. We're done with that. We're casting it off. Like, it's pretty heavy.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude.
January 21st, 1793, King Louis XVI is taken to the guillotine, executed. There's about a crowd of 80,000. Some of whom go and dip their handkerchiefs in the blood of the king and carry the handkerchief as like a relic that we have spilled this royal blood, and here it is. And I want to keep some for myself because I almost can't believe it. You know, it's weird.
I think that's just the thing that people love to do, because they do that in the American South for like lynchings.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've whitewashed lynchings. The part of lynching is chopping up the body and taking like souvenirs. So like, people love that, dog. Like, we'll talk about Lumumba taking they just got the teeth. They just got the teeth returned.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like somebody from Belgium just returned the teeth to like, yeah. So
that's pretty crazy.
People love to take souvenirs, dog.
People are fucking animals.
Yeah, no, yes they are, dude. Yes, they fucking are.
March 6th of 1793. The Paris Commune, which if I understand the way I understand it, is Paris Commune is like the pseudo executive in place of the executive. We don't have an executive. We have the National Assembly, and then we have the Paris Commune, which is like central to Paris, obviously, but it kind of serves like an executive function, although it is made up of local Parisians, but it's also kind of the central hub, you know?
It's the most like important, like kind of like it's body. It feels like it's also the most far out in front.
Yes.
Of everybody else, except for like Marseille and some of the important cities who are farther out in front of. It's like, I don't know if they would be farther out, but they're more radical than the Paris, than Paris. But yeah,
I interpret it as it's the new executive, basically. Like the National Convention is the legislative; it'll pass what it'll pass, but the Paris Commune, but it's not like there's any one figurehead. It's its own. There's like 150 guys in the Paris Commune, so
and they're
it's
all
commune, you know.
Yeah, they're all fucking Parisian, and they're all fucking. They're all yeah, dude.
Doing some things, maybe.
Yeah.
The commune orders the closure of all churches without a juring priest in the Vendée region, which is Western France, like Western Paris.
Yeah.
And it's like a port area with all this royalist. Oh, we're getting right to that.
Yeah.
There's a recruitment drive in the area of the Vendée as well. And some armed National Guardsmen arrive in the region, which they try to impress some people and take them to the front. The Vendéans refuse. They're also upset that the king has just been killed. Mm-hmm. And this is the start of the uprising in the Vendée. A bunch of royalists, they don't cooperate with the commune appointed priests. They protect the refractory priests that had not sworn an oath to France over the papacy, and they defend their right to revolt and assert their popular will against the will being imposed upon them by the Jacobins. In their defense, they're saying, we're just doing what you did, 4 years ago?
Yeah. It's
why is your revolt any less valid than ours?
It's the society's varied also, like in like Paris, you know, like the society like wasn't exactly the same as like Western France, that I think had like there wasn't as much poverty in certain places, like, and people didn't have as shitty of relations with like landowners and like and like other people are the aristocrats in like certain parts of France. So like the west of France is always taught they always had like counter-revolutionary actions going on there. Yeah. I think it's the same thing with Lyon. I think we talked about the other episode. So it's like there's little places where like people did they had a different estimation of like what they wanted and or what they were loyal to. And there's little shit popping off all the time.
And they felt they weren't being represented by the Parisians. So you see this urban-rural divide where the Parisians are increasingly out of touch with the rest of France. And they're saying, hey, this is what we came up with. This is what we need to do in order to really consummate the revolution.
We're
not asking for consent. Sorry. The same day, March 6th, the war is failing. So the commune sends out these représentants en mission, which are representatives of the National Convention, out into problem areas. The Revolutionary Tribunal is established on the 11th of March, and on the 20th, they adopt a proposition giving the military courts jurisdiction over anyone in public positions. So this includes clergy, because they consider clergy appointed members of the Parisian government, government, revolutionary government.
That's martial law.
That's basically. If anyone's found guilty of stirring revolt, which open interpretation there, they're going to be shot within 24 hours.
You go to military. You go to military court, which is military court. They only got like 3 options.
Yeah, man.
And one of them is you join the army. Another one you get shot, and then another one you got like make food for others.
And the judges are always pressed for time. Is an important factor here. They don't have a lot of time to decide. They gotta kind of military court,
dude. It's very short. It's only open 3 days a week.
Yeah, man.
I have no idea about it.
I got to run through these cases, man. He's guilty. I don't have time for nuance. Okay.
No, dude.
There's the same month, around the same time, there's the collapse of the assignat. There's inflation. grocery riots, although they didn't know it as inflation quite then, but that's what it was because they keep on printing. And it's like, well, the threshold for the merchants kind of keeps rising because they don't believe in this currency. The grocery riots, there's mobs stopping grain shipments and like enforcing their own price. So, which in some case, I don't know if they had a maximum quite yet. It would be like below the maximum.
Yeah.
Like imagine like a mob of people just with a bunch of pitchforks and torches or whatever, and you're a grain merchant and you're saying, but the government said that the price is 24 assignats for whatever. And they say, we're going to pay you 12.
Yeah.
And that's our price. And you're going to take it or we're going to kill you. And it's like,
well,
okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, the violence can also be used for, not the worst purposes to give everybody bread for a little less money.
I don't know. It's complex.
It's complex, yeah.
April 6th of 1793, this is where you have the birth of the Committee of Public Safety within the Paris Commune itself. Same month, Jean-Paul Marat, as president of the Jacobins, had been increasingly vicious. There's the trial of Marat due to Girondin pressure. And there's this divide between the Jacobins and the Girondins that deepens over their tactics again. And so this trial of Jean-Paul Marat, because he kind of becomes I don't even want to say a scapegoat, because he definitely was. He is the epitome, shall we call him, of kind of mob rule and extremism, and
he's the hottest
wanton abuses of rhetoric and just saying shit for the sake of saying shit and just throwing it out there, stirring the pot. He's the quintessential shit stirrer, right?
Yeah, he's the hottest boy in the land. He's
Joe Rogan.
He has the Twitter, he has the YouTube, yeah, and he is not afraid to say, people should be murdered.
Yeah, he's not afraid to say some crazy stuff.
Say murder people. Yeah,
should we write this in? Should we really let this go? But the trial has the opposite effect.
He's one of a lot, so he's not the only one, but he's the hottest boy.
Yeah, for real. And the trial turns him into the people's champion because he's like vindicated, and it makes the Girondins look really bad because all of a sudden they look soft, basically. There's also another reason that split between the parties is the issue of 22. There were like 22 delegates to the National Convention who voted that the king's death should be put to a popular vote.
Yeah.
And both the mob and the Jacobins, they think these people, they're, again, absolutes. They're thinking, because you showed any amount of leniency, you're against the nation. You should not represent Paris. You should not represent France.
Yeah.
You should be expunged.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah, they weren't like again, like there's this counter-revolutionary stuff. There's a lot of stuff, but the people are angry. And they are on the fucking streets. And this is not like a thing where it's like, this is just a made up thing, or it's like a very small percentage. No, them niggas is real. And it's, and they are out there and they really do want this. So like, it's not,
like, it's weird. It's weird to see the parallels, or the echoes rather, of like how things go to the top, especially with like the Jacobins, where they're almost like, the aspect of mob rule is what I'm talking about, of like the Parisians are out in the streets, and the Jacobins are echoing their sentiments. I don't want to say entirely out of fear, because some of them did believe it, but definitely there is something in their minds that must be saying, we have to appease these people or they will do the same thing to us.
Well, yeah, but it's
so how it percolates, I guess.
Yeah, it's how it percolates, but it's also you're gonna deny the people out on the streets that have already broken in stuff and already done stuff like it. Mob, it's just people. Like the using mob rule. Like I understand the concept, but like it is just the people of like various parts of France.
Of Paris.
Yeah, Paris, and then there's other parts of France.
I mean, they kind of filter in for sure. But whether this is truly representative is still debated to this day, and that's like the whole reason why there was kind of this segmentation in like Vendée and Lyons and wherever.
No, there's other places that kind of revolutionary, but there's still a fucking fair element that's fucking down for this across the country.
Yeah. This gets us into Act 2, exorcisms. So, on June 2nd of 1793, there is an uprising in the commune, Paris Commune, a wedge issue were a maximum price on bread, more exacerbations in the rural-urban divide. There are rumors that there's an expunging of all of the Girondists, I think in the convention as well as the commune, maybe just a commune, not really sure about that. There's rumors that the Girondins were in contact with Dumouriez. Dumouriez was this general that was fighting on the northeastern front of France against the Austrians, I think. And he was like fighting around Belgium, or again, northeastern France. And he basically defects to the Austrians and is kind of like kept with them and being treated okay. And there's rumors that the Girondins are in contact with him, and that Dumouriez could come back and like lead some sort of monarchical, maybe not monarchical, basically a proto-Napoleon. They're afraid that Dumouriez was going to do what Napoleon did.
Yeah.
There's also a purge of the 70 delegates to the convention, I think, had signed a petition in favor of the Girondins, and they were also purged with the Girondins as for being moderates. The Sans-Culottes themselves, they smashed 2 of the Girondin free presses and decried the Girondins as a royalist fifth column. 10,000 Parisians also assembled, demanding that the 22 be expelled. Again, the people who had voted in favor of the king's death being decided by a popular vote, which is interesting that there's a popular demonstration against popular voting,
Yeah.
Anyway, they demand that those people be expelled. They are expelled. The Girondins removed to Caen, I believe. And again, update on the war. They're being invaded in the north and east by Austria and Prussia, as well as in the south and in the west by Great Britain. So Great Britain is now seizing opportunities and starting to encroach on France a little bit because they're masters of the seas. And then on July 13th, 1793, exorcism on the other end, is the assassination of Jean-Paul Marat by Charlotte Corday. She pretends to be an admirer, and she like conceals a knife inside of her dress. She visits his home, promising to tell him the name of the conspirators, the Girondin conspirators in Caen.
Yeah.
And she's talking to him while he's in the bathtub because your boy is hella rashy and he needs to take these baths because they're good for his, I don't know if he had like severe eczema, some kind of skin condition.
He had a crazy skin condition. He always used to have to take all these baths, and he was depicted as always being in the bath. Just an angry man in the bath. Yeah.
And where I do my best writing.
just really pissed off. But with bubbles though.
Yeah, with the bubbles going on. How do you yeah.
And this lady comes in and she just stabs him while he's in the bath.
Yep.
And then he just dies in that bath. And isn't that a pretty popular painting of like him dead in the bath, her like with the knife, and then like the mass of the Parisian people, this is the Sans-Culottes coming in like desperately angry.
Yeah. Oh my God, I can't believe that you did that. That was crazy, right? There's the funny anecdote where he says, or she says, like, I'm here to tell you about the Girondin conspirators. And he says, like, in the morning, I'll have them all guillotined or something to that effect. And it makes me think that like Jean-Paul Marat, I'm thinking like a man here, he's trying to get laid. He's trying to flex that revolutionary power. You know what I mean? He's like, I'm in the bathtub, I'm naked. She's an admirer who's trying to help me purge the nation of counter-revolutionaries.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Here we go. And he's like, hey, baby, I'm gonna have all those conspirators executed on the morrow. You want to watch? I can get you right up close. If you want to see the blood, I can bring you one of their heads if you want, baby.
You know, he
his bubbles and his rubber ducky is like
definitely with that. The head knot's funny to me. Just a little knot, like this little knot.
Hey, baby, he's got a little bobbling going on.
You know what you cannot do? You know what you can do in a bathtub?
What's that?
Fuck. Come on, dog. You can do
You
that.
can't. You're not supposed to underwater. That's
Who
what
said
I've.
who said that, dog?
That's what
Then
I've heard. Is it's
then
not good because you're forcing water into the cavity. You know.
you know what's crazy is like
That
that
I
was
just referred to a vagina as a cavity. Yes, I know.
yes,
It
yeah. I
was
mean,
crazy.
it matters what you're fucking, then that's fine. Also, and second of all, that's like every black kid that I knew when we was 15, that was they lie about how they had sex for the first time. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, for this girl at a pool party. I
Oh,
didn't even
okay.
really know her.
All right. Yeah. It's.
And
I
like we
think you're
fucked
full
in
of
the
shit, man.
water, and it was like, all
Yeah.
right, dog. It's all right, dog.
I like to imagine Jean Paul Marat. He had like a little rubber duck, and he was like, "Tell me of the conspirators, and I'll have them executed in the morning." And he has like a little mini guillotine,
Yeah.
and he just is like,
Cuts.
"Here's what I'm gonna do." He takes his rubber duck and he puts it through the little mini guillotine, and he decapitates his rubber duck, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Now it doesn't squeak. It doesn't squeak anymore. You know why? Because it's headless. Because it's dead.
And that's
The
how.
Girondists will squeak no longer,
And that
madam." And then he goes off on his quill and just starts writing this complex allegory about the rubber duck and the conspirators. That's how I like to see this. And then she's like, "This guy's full of shit," and she she pulls out a knife and
she
just
stabs him.
stabs him.
She
Yep.
stabs this dude. I like to think that
Fuck
now,
you and your metaphor. You
and
know?
now I like to think that it's probably just because he just was he was bad. He's just unpleasurable time. That she really came there to maybe give him some, and he
Hmm.
was just so bad at game. Because also because and then maybe or maybe he catfished her and like she showed up and she was like, why are you wait hold on you're in a you in a bathtub.
Are you
That
gonna
wasn't
talk
in,
to me in the bathtub? This is a
that
little too forward for my liking, sir.
and I was like that wasn't in your profile. The
Mhm.
bathtub wasn't in your profile. He's like, well, it's
Yeah, I
the
didn't know you were
bathtub
the
that's new.
bath boy. This is weird. Yeah.
This is new. And then she was like, then he tried to like maybe, I mean, maybe he was like, and she tried to be too aggressive, and
Yeah.
then she stabbed him. Maybe it
Yeah. She
wasn't
was
her
like, you
fault.
know what? Yeah. Maybe
Maybe
not.
dude,
That's what I'm saying.
probably not. She came there to stab him. It was a whole
Yeah.
thing. She planned it. It was the whole
But
thing.
there was also some like covert misogyny there as well,
Yeah,
where she was like tried, and the dudes in the convention and the people trying her were like, "But you're a woman, so there's no way that you could do this on your own volition. You were definitely told to stab this man by, by the counter-revolutionary, reactionary conspirators that we have still within Paris."
did
And
she?
she's like, "Nope, I just thought he was an asshole. I just thought he was a loudmouth and an extremist, and I did not like him. So I stabbed him because I thought he was bad for France." And then they go, "But surely a man told you to do this because you're a woman."
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. And Charlotte Corday, like, it's like, do we know her like wealth status or whatever? Like, what class she comes
I
from?
don't know. I think she was. Upper class. I could
Yeah,
be
like it
mistaken.
wasn't like she had her agreement. Like it wasn't
Yeah,
like she was on the side she was gonna be on, and then that
yeah,
nigga just like let her in there thinking he had game
yeah,
and just was all he about
yeah.
to get some,
Basically, I think
and then he
so.
got stabbed,
I
like, and
think
he
so.
died and he bled out in the bathtub, and that's what
Icarus
happened.
flew too close to the sun, man. You
You
thought
gotta
you could
really
get
be
it, you could.
questioning whenever
Yeah.
whenever you have sex, you gotta really question why would this person ever do this? And what's wrong with this situation?
Yeah, yeah. What he must not get too much. Maybe I don't think so. And then he's like, "Oh, this is my opportunity." And he's, "Hey, baby, I'll have him killed in the morning." And then
Okay,
and then he gets stabbed. And
then he
it's
gets
like,
stabbed.
all right.
Yeah,
So Charlotte Corday is ultimately sent to the guillotine as a
Mhm.
result of her trial.
She's
The
pretty open.
CP,
She's pretty
huh?
open about it. Yeah, she
Yeah,
got killed.
she's like, "All right, I understand. I'm going to the
Yeah,
guillotine. I
yeah,
have to die for this.
yeah,
That's fine. At least
yeah,
I took this asshole
yeah.
with me." The same month, approximately, the Committee of Public Safety, the CPS, is rebuilt. They advocate for economic regulation, military mobilization. They're trying to rein in the violent elements at this time. They
Yeah.
kind of are trying to officialize the political process and make sure that the representants on Michon are answering to them and trying to bring the sans culottes in under control. No more spontaneous public recalls. Like if there's a local government official, they don't want the mob anymore to just run them out of town. They want there to be what I would call due process.
Yeah. I mean, but look, there's the argument that if the people decide that is due process, but who are the people? It's a lot of questions, though.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
yeah.
questions, but no, I it's yeah. They
How do
they're
you
trying.
account for the silent majority though?
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to. That's assuming in certain places. We don't know like where we're
Yeah,
talking about, Big Dog. That's the question. What
yeah,
part of the country we're talking about?
yeah,
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, they're trying to like because life has to be regular at some point.
yep,
It can't always be
yeah.
revolutionary. Like that shit is
Or
hard,
else
dude.
it'll just completely undo itself constantly, and you'll have
Yeah,
nothing, and
this is
you won't ever
constant
build.
revolution.
Yeah,
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 that shit sucks, dude.
yeah.
Like
You
constant
can't.
change all the time.
Yeah, you got to
No
stand for
stability.
something eventually. You got to get on your feet, and then run.
Yeah, no stability at all. Yeah, so
I
they
don't know about
you
that.
have to kind of get processes, and it's like, damn, we can't be constantly. But that's
Yeah,
also like if by reining them in, hey, guess what? You don't have no more. You don't have a force of people on the streets that really fuck with you, and,
yeah,
and that might be the only reason you're in power, Big Dog.
yeah. And maybe some of them are a little crazy, and they resent the fact that you're trying to rein in their violence.
Yeah, then
And now
maybe
you have
yeah,
a bunch of violent elements, and you're telling them like, okay, stop being violent, please.
yeah.
It's
And
like,
they're the only reason for your power, though. They're
yeah,
the violence is the reason
yeah.
for yeah,
It's
yeah,
hard.
yeah,
It's a the horns of the dilemma. We see
yeah.
them very clearly, right?
It's my yeah, like so I gotta feed them because I'm only okay. That's the whole thing.
Mhm.
We can talk about later.
August 10th of 1793. This is the Fête de l'Unité, which is celebrating the acceptance of the new constitution. It's also the year anniversary of the battle over the Tuileries. They're burning relics of the monarchical rule. There's a bust of Louis XIV
Yeah.
that goes up in flames along with a bunch of other stuff. State of emergency is declared that month. Anyone with goods of the first necessity, quote unquote, are required to make a declaration to authorities within 8 days, basically saying, I have a surplus of food, or face hoarding punishment, aka death.
Yeah.
September 5th, 1793, there is a call for / establishment of the predominantly sans-culotte Armée Révolutionnaire. And this is commonly cited as the start of the terror. They're sent out, the Armée Révolutionnaire. You're dealing with all these militant sans-culottes, particularly in Paris. And I get the impression that the delegates of the commune and of the convention are scared of the sans-culottes. And you have all of this pressure. Like I think about it like a crock pot or like an instant pot
Yeah.
that you need to vent the steam.
Yeah.
And where do you send that steam, so to speak, is you turn them out to the countryside. They're sent out to enforce the decrees of the assembly. I think the National Assembly has now National Convention has now become the National Assembly with the adoption of the new constitution. There's the levy en masse, which is just a call for troops generally, and you send some to the fronts, but also you send some of these more militant sans-culottes out into the countryside to requisition food. That way we're able to fight the war effort, not only the foreign invaders, but the domestic royalist counter-revolutionary Vendéans as well.
Yeah. And they're trying to they're trying to bring I guess also the bread thing of like requisitioning the bread. I guess trying to make it a more stable system to like where they can get food to people that's not in the hands of like merchants.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but you also like some of the people going out there, it's a little bit rough.
Yeah.
It's a little bit rough.
Yeah. How do you regulate it exactly? How do you make sure that these people aren't
there's all types
excessive,
There's all and yeah, some of those people they go out there, they're kind of they go the national bathtub is a thing that like there's a lot.
Your power goes to their head a little bit.
Yeah, certain people
excited.
We can safely say that certain people went a little bit too far. We can safely say that.
Yes,
that's the thing you can safely say.
It's prominent Jacobin George Danton himself who says the quote that terror is the order of the day. He gives another quote which I think is pretty telling, is he says like, we must be terrible so the people do not have to be, or something to that effect, which is like,
oh, so like
it's weird. It's
a saying weird, like let's have a force that basically does the extermination, so people don't have to do all these uprisings.
People don't have to do it. Let's centralize the exterminating process.
Yeah,
in a weird way. But I mean, it's not like I don't think he was reveling in it. I think it was like, well, this is going to happen either way, so it's better that the government do it than the people do it, because if getting thorny, man.
Yeah, no, I
Getting,
mean it's no. This is not at this point. It's not fun. This ain't like I mean they are killing royalists, but this is
yeah,
not at this point. Like at this point, we just like, hey man, we got to focus on that bread, and y'all still don't get that.
yeah.
The bread problem is still fucked up,
There's still
and we
people
really
still
gotta
aren't
fuck.
eating.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
we
got to figure
still.
this one out,
Yeah,
man. It's kind of
that's
difficult.
also an issue, and
Yeah,
that issue has not been resolved.
yeah. This brings the Army Revolutionnaire into conflict with rural communities because they're basically they're not really used to Republican forces just kind of like co-opting their food supply.
This ain't a real country.
Understandably, yeah.
This ain't a real country. It's not like it's not
yet.
like the states and
Yeah.
shit. This is like a hodgepodge of shit that the king used to run.
What the
And,
fuck is
like,
France? I'm not
yeah.
France, yeah.
People have those emotions like on the edges. It's like, well,
I've also read, I think it's in Simon Schama's Citizens.
Yeah.
He said that the implementation of food maximums at this time, for bread in particular, led to an almost immediate scarcity. And it was basically like a reshuffling of who was hoarding, because the people who were hoarding are the people who did have the supply and were dumb enough / smart enough to report that they had said food supply to the authorities. And then they said, okay, this is the price maximum. And if it was set like too low, and so people knowing that there was a food scarcity going on, you can try to instill the idea of monolithic nationhood as much as you can. But at the end of the day, people think my family needs to eat first.
Yeah.
So they heard the maximums are going up. They knew who had the food. They went and bought up all the bread, and then they became the hoarders. And they just didn't report that they had a surplus of food supply. If you regulated the amount that's like what bread lines would be. That would be a way to centralize it. Like everybody gets this amount, but just being like, all right, there's a maximum, and whoever gets it, then it just becomes kind of a scramble,
It's kind of, again, you talk about the king or the ancient regime, like that was like barely a government.
Yeah,
they was barely, and like here, so what they're building on right now, they're trying to build a government. But there's no real bureaucracy to do any of this. They have no, they can't, and they can't reach out very far because they're not that organized.
Or social precedent for this kind of thing.
A social precedent is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, there's no social, like they're just inventing all this stuff, and it's like, oh, that's a good try, but there's also issues with that.
This is a dry run for nationhood.
Yeah,
I was like, it's gonna get messy, Same month, September 1793, I think it's the Committee of Public Safety.
Also, just the idea that people should have bread in general was like a new idea. That like another person, like everybody should eat. Hold up,
I'm kind of used to people starve. I'm fine with the idea of starvation for some people. Other than not my people. My people eat. Your people starve. It's fine. It's cool. And this is God's way.
It's not far off. That's really, it's not far off our niggas thought.
September 1793. Like I said, I believe it's the Committee of Public Safety that passes the Law of Suspects. Those who had shown themselves to be, quote unquote, partisans of tyranny or federalism. Those who could not give a satisfactory account of how they executed their civic duties. Basically, if you weren't a good enough citizen, or if you didn't have a certificates of good citizenship, they were discharged as government employees. It's like they're immediately expunged. So you see kind of like a culmination of the exorcism or the purging of the commune and the convention in June of 1793. Now that's basically made into Republican policy and applied to the whole of France. Same month, there's the trial of the Queen, Marie Antoinette, because they executed the king, but they still had the queen, and she's not doing well. Her trial's proceeding by Jacques Herbert, who poses some major problems later. He introduces as evidence in her trial the testimony of Louis Charles, Louis the 17th, and his big allegation is incest, that Marie Antoinette had like taught him how to masturbate in order to like birth a new heir or whatever kind of weird allegation that they're throwing. In her defense, she basically says like, what reasonable mother would actually do this. Like, this is kind of insane. You're clearly trying to smear me with the blackest brush, as I have been smeared since I arrived, basically. But they also say that Louis the 17th, Louis Charles, he had on his heart, or he had on his person, this relic. It was a sacred heart pierced by an arrow.
Yeah.
And this was a known emblem of the Vendean rebels. I think it was given to him by one of their friends. I'm not sure who, but clearly they are royalist sympathizers, which, of course, it just doesn't make them look good. You know, they're like, you're conspiring with Vendée. That's why you have the sacred heart, and you're an incestuous harlot. And she's like,
yeah, it was again, they got some real interesting leftist policies. They talking about welfare, but they are still real shitty to women.
Yeah.
Real shitty to women. And
for
so
sure.
yeah. That's
and so on October 16th, 1793, you have the execution of Marie Antoinette. She's taken from her children. I think she had actually been taken from her children in the summer, and she's just like left in a cell alone and then executed in October while wearing white.
It's so crazy that they executed her and they sentenced her to death, and they tried this whole weird thing about, you know, incest and stuff like that, when they could have just went with the fact that she was an emissary for a foreign government.
Yep. Yeah, there's definitely charges here. Yeah.
The plain like really, but actually betraying the nation, being but that's, you know, they didn't do that because she
scandalous
was
enough, man.
Yeah.
People don't want the truth.
Yeah, they don't want
that hot fiction, you know.
Yeah.
October 1793, same month. This is kind of the beginning of the end here. You have this guy, Fabre d'Eglantine. I think he was like, so what Saint-Just is to Robespierre, Fabre d'Eglantine is to Danton. D'Eglantine begins maneuvering against the Hébertistes. And the Hébertistes, named after Jacques Hébert, they're kind of the most militant, bloodthirsty Jacobins. Robespierre would refer to them as the ultras. D'Eglantine.
It just goes down. No, I'm just saying, it's just layers. Layers of fucking, just like all the way down to the streets of just like, I don't know.
Extremism. People taking a too liberal interpretation of their mandate to like purge the nation and whatever, you know, like.
And also they
believe Jean-Paul Marat. They're like, all right, I got to kill priests. I'm going to kill some priests. I got to kill anyone of royal blood, or I got to kill the families of royalists to make sure that that a conspiracy can't pop off. That's what I have to do, because I'm doing so for the betterment of the nation. They're like ruthlessly deontological, as in the ends justify the means, you know?
And this is something that I feel like, again, happens in every single, like, no matter who's in control, it seems to happen, whether you're in Argentina dropping college kids out of helicopters.
Yep. But anyway, Eglantine is talking to Maximilien Robespierre, one of really famous in the French Revolution, obviously, on the Committee of Public Safety. Eglantine is saying to Robespierre that another member of the Committee of Public Safety, this guy Hérault Seychelles, was a foreign agent and was in fact collaborating with the Prussians and the Austrians and embezzling all of this money. Hérault Seychelles was also, I think, an Hébertiste, or he was an ultra as well. He was pretty into it. And this is like the beginning of this attempt to link the ultra left to the royalists and say that these people, the ultras, who are going so out of control to execute the mandate that they think is the revolutionary governments, are in fact foreign plants who are doing so to turn public opinion against the revolution. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to link the far left to the far right and say these people are collaborating against our pure intent.
It's deep. It's you. That's that part. When you get to that part of the internet, you on 4chan.
Oh yeah.
Like when you start linking shit, that's what you on about 8chan. You're on the 5th chan right there.
For intra chan, meta chan,
No, but this is also like they're gonna go
5D chess, bro. 5D chess, right?
they're gonna go at the people that are like their base. And then once they've eliminated their
That's we'll get
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
They're selling out they're eating their tail.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another big issue at this time, a split between, I don't know if you'd call them Robespierreists. I know there was Dantonists. I think there were like, I don't know, but it's not as colloquial, I don't think, to say like a Robespierreist, because he was just, I don't want to say a centrist. I know the main divide that we're getting into is the Hebertists or the ultras against the Dantonists. Mm-hmm. But a big issue, a big wedge issue between the two, or a reason why the Hebertists, the ultras, are seen as these ultra militants who are discrediting the revolution, is the issue of de-Christianization. They were literally attacking churches and destroying all of these really old relics and killing priests, moreover. And Robespierre is against de-Christianization because he's like, this is too far. This is going to discredit the revolution. This is like a cornerstone of our country's heritage. And if you attack, and people's just religion generally, like you try to take that from them, there's things are bound to get bad, so
it's so weird that he goes from that kind of that to them being like, no, but what if there was a different church? Like, what if that would be kind of a sick. There's an alternative.
We need something to replace.
We gotta religion. Replace it.
What do we replace it with becomes the question.
And when you start putting together elaborate opening ceremonies, that's when shit start going south. That shit was just start going south.
Robespierre himself is against de-Christianization. He gives a speech at the Jacobins where he basically decries the militants, and he says they would make a kind of religion of atheism itself, which I thought was interesting because, again, you need something to replace that. You can rip off that Band-Aid, but you have to fill the void. And he kind of sees that you can't build on negation, or you can't build on nothing,
I mean, this is
but people still try.
This is the time of the Enlightenment, and these dudes all like are in the like gardening and shit, and they're in the science and shit, and they look at the shit as a whole.
Mendel's fucking around with peas a little too much,
ecosystem type, there's a world, and then like there's like they're thinking about that. If you remove that place or you remove that branch, you'll collide. Like they're thinking like maybe we can't do that. That maybe that pillar's too strong. It's like, I don't know. Yeah, it's you can remove it though. It is my boy Mao.
But then what do people replace it with?
My boy Mao.
We've removed it. We've pretty much removed it at this point, and it's kind of like, okay, well now we just worship. Now we all just worship ourselves.
Speak for yourself, big dog. I'm still in the church. I'm still in the church every Sunday, big dog.
Hey, bro, I'm a pagan. All right.
Yeah, I know.
I'm on a big Apollo kick right now.
That's why I do this
Apollo, podcast. That's my boys. All right.
That's a wild.
I fuck with Dionysus sometimes. Dionysus on the weekends. Apollo during the week. Am I right?
You gotta get that. You gotta get that gluttony in, dude. Okay? You gotta get that gluttony in.
You gotta purge every once in a while. You gotta get a little crazy.
You think I'm not gonna glutton?
Get wild. Let's party. Let's smile.
Wow.
That's not it.
Ooh.
I need a Tums after that one for the heartburn.
Why do you do these things to yourself?
November 17th, 1793, another member of the Committee of Public Safety, Billaud Varennes, introduces a measure attempting to rein in the Army Revolutionnaire. There are too many competing decentralized interests. Anyone could be arrested if they interfered with the public good. Nobody really had immunity for any crimes. And this is again to see, like, toward the end of 1793, the terror is getting so out of control that members of the Committee of Public Safety are saying, all right, we need to centralize this. We need to rein in these elements because right now it's anarchy and we're responsible for it. So let's figure it out, fellas.
And they
how do you figure it out? What happens? You're eating. This gets us into Act 3, which I'll title "Eating the Tail."
Oh, okay.
November to December of 1793, Robespierre and Danton shift against Jacques Hébert, the leader of the Hébertists, ultra.
Mhm.
And this gets into the next split or the next party, the next faction, which is called the almost ironically the indulgence,
Mhm.
the indulgence. And they're in favor of allowing people to defend themselves when charges are brought against them, as opposed to these spontaneous recalls. Let's get rid of these show trials. Let's let the aristocrats, let's give them a fair trial, kind of move towards due process. Let's process this. Let's hear people out. Let's indulge them, quite literally. And
Yeah.
so, but alarm bells should kind of be going off, because it's like, all right, so what'd you do?
Yeah.
Why the change in why'd you flip on this? What's going on? Robespierre.
Hot paranoia though.
Yeah. It's like, maybe we should hear people out. And it's like, oh yeah, really? Why?
Okay.
Robespierre in particular is upset over dechristianization. He thinks that these people are discrediting the revolution, which they were. And Danton and Eglantine, they again cook up a plot to curb the violence by claiming that the ultras were actually foreign agents of the counter-revolution, which we talked about. But he doesn't mention that many prominent Jacobins sent to investigate the French India Company, or the FCI, were embezzling mad amounts of money from it, and as well as like life insurance companies and like water companies, I think, were also mentioned. And they have lined their pockets, and they're the indulgence. They're the ones who are saying, let's give people a fair chance.
Yeah. The at any, yeah, that's just like, man, is the word you said before, there's no precedent for like what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, so they're just like, people get in spaces and they're just like, all right, well, I still could tax the fuck out of this personally. Like, they're still trying, they're still like, they're like, half of them are just like very new capitalists.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Or it's like the birth of the modern man in some ways.
Yeah.
Modern sensibilities.
Yeah, they were very, they were like, still like, I'm still gonna, what's corruption? If like what is that? Like,
who's gonna take a little bit of the skim off the top?
Yeah.
If the cup overfloweth, that flow's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, nobody's gonna defend these aristocrats. People hate them, but people love me. So surely, and it's the money's got to go somewhere.
People will always take advantage of the situation. That's
watch people who watch people.
Yeah.
Watch people who watch people. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that's yeah.
So Camille Desmoulins, also an indulgent. We talked about him in the first episode. The biggest claim to fame is like his, rather tepid, admittedly, participation in the Bastille, or an invasion of the Bastille. Still a very talented journalist. He takes up his pen, writes up in favor of the indulgence, really tries to dissect the horns of the dilemma. He proposes the establishment of a committee of clemency to investigate the cases of the accused, as well as to start recalling and imprisoning some of the worst members of the Armée Révolutionnaire, the worst of the ultras, the worst of the Hébertists, the most violent offenders. And they were violent, don't get me wrong. Robespierre, he resents having granted, eventually, the request to establish a committee of clemency on which he didn't sit. Worse than that, Fabre d'Eglantine is sitting on the committee that has to investigate himself and the indulgence, which is a lot like the CIA investigating itself after they most definitely killed JFK. Just throwing it out there. And
man, we have, oh man, all right, let's not do that right now. No,
let's not do that
right now.
Robespierre comes to realize that he looked dumb for not sitting on the committee, or for letting people investigate themselves, because of course they're going to be like, I'm innocent. He's innocent. He said he's innocent, And so he wrote off the entire indulgent movement, in which Danton was very prominent, and his good buddy at this.
Yeah.
There's also supply issues with the Maximum. Food producing provinces didn't see themselves, like we talked about, as part of France or subservient to the revolutionary government. The maximum price is set too low. So farmers just had no incentive to release their supply to the market because they're like, I'm not making shit with this already overinflated currency. The Committee of Subsistence is in charge of distributing food and supplies. They give food to the army first, which means people in the city are starving. So there's more grocery riots, more unrest. And then to get into kind of an incident I thought was really cool about the terror, or an aspect of the terror. October to December of 1793, Louis-Antoine Saint-Just is in Alsace, which is like on the border of France and Germany. And he's trying to rein in de-Christianization in the area because there were some radicals and ultras who were like suppressing the German language entirely. And so some of these quote unquote French citizens who spoke German are driven out of France and into Germany. But in Germany, they're recognized as French citizens, so they're not welcome there. And then they're declared emigres by the Jacobins and have their land requisitioned. Saint-Just himself, or in around Alsace, he oversees 120 executions during the terror, during that time we talked about. And it's like the way R.R. Palmer made it seem is that it was a lot of like undisciplined ultra officers, or just undisciplined officers and some ultras. It wasn't entirely wanton mass killings. It was like example making, so I don't know. And it also brings up a point of like the terror was definitely worse in some places than in others. Like it wasn't kind of mass terror in mass throughout the entirety of France. Like some provinces probably got off pretty okay and saw little, if any, deaths, whereas others like Lyon and Nantes,
it's very even. It's a very uneven. And,
So from December 1793 to January of 1794, this is the worst period of the drownings at Nantes, or Nantes. I think it's Nantes. This is like one of the most egregious examples of Hébertiste or ultra violence and militancy, and just the potential bloodthirstiness that is ever present beneath the blood of any man, or the thoughts of any man, that if you leave some people unchecked, they're bound to abuse their power and just go crazy with it, and just unleash some truly sociopathic behavior. As many as 4,000 people were drowned. They're being claimed as like royalists or emigres, Catholic priests, as well as nuns. By the names of two of the worst offenders, was Guy Louis and Jean-Baptiste Carrier. There's one of the guys in the Legislative Assembly. I'm not sure if that's for Paris or if it's a local one. This is what he calls them, the national bathtubs. It's like all these, they're these names, these little like jokes that they have about what these are. The national bathtub, Republican baptism. And the stories themselves are pretty sick once you get into them.
It does remind you of like, it's very, it's people always make jokes when they're doing incredibly awful things. Like, and from my understanding, this is where they just got, kids, priests, whatever, and children, the women, back to political prisoners, and they would they chained them to a ship and then sunk the ship. That was how they drowned them. Which is that's not in any manual. That's just a sick mind.
Yeah. There are others where they would, I don't know, I've heard stories of like they would have like one guy on the ship, and he would on the ship with the victims, and he would have someone else in a ship next to him, like one of his deputies or whatever, and he would like punch out a plank inside of the boat and then hop on the other boat and like watch everybody drown. They would like tie people together, or they would like tie husband and wives together, a man and a woman together, and put them on the boat or light the boat on fire. Just all sorts of
Yeah, it get real
like,
sick. They get real
yeah,
sick over there. they get real. They were
yeah,
getting real intricate with it, and nobody
yeah,
asked them to do that.
yeah. And this is why, or this is the impetus for why December 4th of 1793, they have the Constitution of the Terror is passed. That's what it's called. And it's aimed against the worst offenders. I think this is what actually establishes the clemency committee that Robespierre was upset about because he didn't sit on it. And this requires representants en mission, or local revolutionary committees, to answer every 10 days to a district administration. And it was an attempt to rein in some of the violence. I'm not sure if I have it mentioned on this. I do not, but Lyon is also a city that received some of the worst brunt of the terror. There are all these Federalist forces, I believe they were, or there was like Federalist forces, which Federalists is different than Republicans, or because the Republicans is the revolutionary government, and then the Federalists are like, hey, we're all about renegotiating our current political system, but we would rather it be like provinces. And they're kind of like federalism closer to like separatism in my mind, is that
there was
more power in the region.
There was every flavor of political ideology that could possibly be imagined was happening in France. No, I mean, Lyon has goes against there's counter-revolutionary, like I think there's a revolt there, or there's multiple revolts in Lyon.
Yeah, or the Federalist forces had just retaken Lyon, and then they unleashed the terror, and the CPS gets in. I think this is where like Héralt Seychelles as well as Carrier got a lot of dirt underneath their fingernails because of their actions in Lyon. And it's more of this, like, not so much the ships and the drownings, but like firing squads and hangings and guillotinings. Understandably, this is where they like really put the supposed enlightenment efficiency of the guillotine. They tested it and put it to the limits, and like, how many people can we behead in a minute? How many people can we behead in an hour? Just kind of like for the data,
get the data. Got to put it on a spreadsheet. That's all I know. That's who I am, Doug.
That's who we answer to. So next year, January 17th of 1794, Chabot, Fabre d'Eglantine, and Héralt Seychelles are all turned over to the Revolutionary Tribune for embezzling money from the French India Company. And this begins kind of a bevy of finger pointing. I'm pretty sure d'Eglantine, he fingered Chabot and Seychelles, and then they fingered. They Eglantine, and then Eglantine also pointed at Danton and Desmoulins a little bit, which they did this to Robespierre. So we're heading for a clash here. The start of 1794, around the same time, this is where things begin to turn in the war effort itself. France is now on the offensive. They have made advances into the Rhineland, as well as there's great victories in Toulon, which is like a port city in southern France, as well as Bordeaux and Lyon had all been turned. The revolution, like I said, the tide is turning outward now to where it was a defensive war, but now there's kind of this consolidation and we're heading towards expansion. But at the highest echelons of government, there's this massive personality clash that is taking place as well, simultaneously. So March of 1794, there is an attempted Hébertiste coup, and it just kind of fizzles to where the Hébertistes don't appreciate being reined in and being regulated. I'm not sure exactly why. I don't remember exactly why this takes place, but they're consolidated and they're placing cuffs on a lot of them. A lot of their most prominent leaders are accused of like embezzlement and also being foreign agents because they're, going so far as to discredit the revolution by being so bloodthirsty. And so Hébertiste coup attempt, it just completely dissolves. It fails entirely. I think there's like 43 Paris sections. I'm not sure how many were considered Hébertiste. I think 13 maybe. And of those 13, one responds. So it was just, it was pretty pathetic. Just some dudes show up in the Paris Commune and like the Palais de Justice and are like, Hébertistes are in power now. And like, you and whose army? Quite literally, you and who? There's 5 of you in here right now. What are you doing? You can't launch a coup with 5 people, you know?
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure Hazan talks about this in his in the people's history of the French Revolution. He talks about this like actually being the end of the French Revolution, and that this is not like a popular uprising of people. Instead, that this is a coup by a small minority of people, spelling that this is not.
Yeah,
and this is also where they kind of the Robespierre. They start to distance themselves from the more violent elements. So yeah. This is now devolved at this point to just interfactional disputes. Yeah.
Hébert and those in his clique are guillotined on the 24th of March, and the way it's been told to me, they died like filthy cowards with tears in their eyes and shit in their breeches. Okay,
I mean, everybody shits themselves. Everybody shits themselves, and I'm pretty sure you cry also.
But you're supposed to shit yourself after you die. That's how it goes. If you shit yourself before you die, you're a huge pussy. If you got that post-death breach shitting, that's what you're going for. Okay.
Okay. All right.
It does matter. It does matter.
That is accurate. That is. I mean, like, I can't argue with that logic.
There are 2 types of people in this world. Okay. Yeah. There are the pre-death breach shitters and the post-death breach shitter, and you want to be the second. Okay.
Okay. No,
be a man. Be a man. All right. This is where we get to be toxic. We get to be toxic about this kind of stuff. You can't take all my toxicity. All right. I'll die like a man, shitting after my death. Okay.
Yeah, man. This is what YouTube wormhole did you go down where you ended here?
I don't know, man. I don't know where this is coming from. This is in me now.
We're a group of very violent individuals.
Embrace the wolf.
Yeah, you gotta embrace that inner wolf, dude.
Yeah, man. Ow.
Okay. Not that much though.
Around the same month, I think in like late March, early April, there's a very loud trial of Georges Danton going on, because it's now public knowledge. You're an embezzler. You're no better. You're doing the same thing that we killed the aristocrats for. You're no better than them. You and your old gang, no better than people you sent to death.
Yeah.
But he is loud about it because Danton, he's beloved by the people, and he has a pretty substantial following. And at first, Robespierre was like trying to break bread with him. There's this scene that's described in one of the books where they have dinner together to try to compromise, and they can't. And they're like both crying, and just regret that things have disintegrated to this point.
They are
Robespierre's French. Like, who do you know that can save your skin? And Danton, he doesn't. He is steadfast. He doesn't. He's no snitch.
They're French. It's a very emotional French. Like he's gonna fuck over his friend.
I gotta kill my friend.
Yeah, he's gonna kill his friend, but he didn't want to kill him. So it was like,
yeah. So a lot of people, he's tried on trumped up charges, although you could, again, it's another one of those things where it's like, you could have just tried him for the thing he did.
Yeah.
As opposed to bringing off this parade of other stuff. But he wrote like a letter in August of 1793, basically advocating for some kind of relief for clemency for Marie Antoinette.
Yeah.
And that's like brought into the trial as well. As like, you're a royalist, you're a conspirator. It's like, no, maybe he's just an embezzler. And maybe that's good enough,
A sense of mise en scene the French have.
Fair enough.
They're setting a theater
yeah,
of how bad you fucking are. Oh my God.
That's fair.
And you supported the incest queen?
Mm-hmm.
What?
The incest queen? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. 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 Dude.
A lot of people, nasty. A lot of people turn out to his trial, and it gets out of hand because the way I see it, the way it's been framed, is that not to kill him would be to further empower him and to send a message to the French people. This type of behavior is okay. And it would undermine the authority of the Paris Commune, the Revolutionary Tribunal, as well as Robespierre himself. he had to die because, again, they had killed other people for doing the same thing. So surely the law cannot be unbending just because he's your friend, right?
Yeah.
So April 5th, 1794 is the execution of Danton and Desmoulins. They're brave about it. Desmoulins, I think, was crying, but like Danton, he's hugging Desmoulins, and the other Indulgence and Dantonis are sentenced with him. And I think he like tells the executioner, he's like something along the lines of, pick up my head and show it to the crowd. It is well worth the effort. And then he dies. Post death breech shitter, for sure. For sure.
Did they hold his head up?
I bet they did. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Probably
Okay.
did. And everybody was like, yay. But everybody was kind of wondering why they were cheering. You know, that's the sense I get, is that everybody's like, you know, they're increasingly tired of it. And they're like, I don't know. You know,
I'm gonna argue that they were hungry because they didn't have bread. Because they didn't fix that
hungry.
problem still, and that's like still a problem.
Yeah,
and
probably
like,
a lot of rumbling
still,
tums for sure.
Yeah, that's still a problem, and that's like
Yeah.
that's like one of the main, but that's the whole thing.
Yeah, you know, I was like, all right, I'm still, maybe if only you could feed the bodies of the people. You know, I don't even mean metaphorically at this point anymore. I mean literally, like you execute the people and then you just cannibalize them. You know, you literally cannibalize them as opposed to figuratively cannibalize them, right? Two birds, one stone. Okay.
Every episode we get down to cannibalism on this podcast. It's always the solution.
That's what I'm saying. We got too many people. It's two birds, one stone. Solves overpopulation, cannibalism. Okay.
Come on, Doug. Rump steak.
How would you cook a human?
No,
how would you season them?
Here's the thing. I know this from watching some, like listening to kind of true crime podcast. Human body, very fatty.
Yeah.
If you try to cook that mug, it's just, you're gonna be drowning in like fat juices. Yeah. So you got to just, so I would barbecue, because then that fat's hitting that fucking fire. It's fucking smoking up. We're getting smoked. This is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really miss my calling as a chef of people.
People's chef.
A people's chef. You know what I mean? Just serving up hot people. I really
I'd like to see a Gordon Ramsay special on cannibals, you know?
I mean, he could,
I'll take any advice from Gordon Ramsay. Gordon Ramsay, you can throw anything in front of my face and I'll eat that shit.
Okay? He still undersalts the cannibal. Like, come on, dog. How do you undersalt? Yeah. How do you undersalt a leg?
It's very easy execution to thighs.
Okay? This is an American leg. There's already so much salt in there from the high blood pressure and the cholesterol. And
you're just going at what instinct is that to add more salt to the already salty piece of meat?
So salty, dude. You've made it so you've oversalted it. Damn you, Gordon. Damn you, Gordon Ramsay.
Damn you, Gordon. To the guillotine.
Yeah.
So the execution, the reason why I think, or the way it's been framed to me, why Robespierre killed both the extreme left and I don't want to even say the extreme right, but like the new right, is they execute the Hébertists as a warning to the sans-culottes to chill out, that they're not above reproach.
Yeah.
And you had to execute Danton and his clique to placate the sans-culottes, and also as a warning to those in the convention, basically saying like, no, you guys are also not beyond reproach. Everybody needs to be on their best behavior.
And that's the scary thing about putting everybody beyond reproach. Everybody starts to think, well, maybe then I could also be killed, and maybe that's not something I want to. Maybe this is like killing Danton. He was a fave. Everybody loved him.
Yep.
He was a big dog, and you killed him.
Robespierre's looking bad, but he's being even-handed. But people might not like you for that.
That's not what this is. You try to give everybody everything, you're gonna give everybody less than they need.
Mm-hmm.
So that's maybe, you know.
May to July, there's a consolidation of Jacobin power. It's basically devolved now into one-party rule.
Yeah.
There's all these patriotic contests as well, towards like an outpouring of patriotic poetry and new bronze statues and like paintings and prints. So there's this artistic flourishing, all in the name of inaugurating the new values and codifying them. And again, like like we talked about with religion, you've killed the old. Now you've got to replace it with something new. And it's like you've killed the old values, and now you've got to do the same thing. You've got to replace it with something new.
They were changing the year, the name of the
The
years,
calendars,
the
yeah, and new
calendar.
months and everything. Yep.
They changed everything. Like every from my understanding, in like certain parts of certain like Jacobin strongholds, they had like certain buildings. They had the statue of Marat in the bathtub.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
A certain place, I forgot where it's at, but like they have them like
we didn't have time to get into it. The Pantheon, they like disinter Voltaire and Rousseau and Mirabeau's in there for a time, and they put their remains inside of the Pantheon as though these men were gods. But this is kind of like the birth of secular sainthood, so to speak.
Yeah. It's they basically created a entire new society.
Yep.
And it would, I mean, they created.
They tried.
Boy, that bread still wasn't popping.
Yeah, you're still not feeding the people. We don't care. Yeah, I can't eat a poem. All right, I wish I could.
I don't give a fuck what thermidor I'm in, my nigga. I need some fucking bread. Like that's how.
There's also in accompanying this outpouring of this artistic flourishing, there's also censorship of the press and theater. And there's still widespread executions going on. Now is when, around the time when they begin, like close to the end of the terror, is when like the families of prominent emigres and the families of members of the Ancien regime are targeted and killed, even though their culpability is minimal compared to the primary actors.
You gotta get rid of the seeds. Also, but yeah, never mind.
I mean, dude, yeah.
I don't know, man. If you're running that line, if you're pressing that line,
But then you're Herbert-Tiste.
Yeah.
Then you're discrediting the revolution. Then you're leaving the flanks open to the counter-revolution. If you advocate violence, you cannot not expect violence to be advocated against you.
According to you, I'm ruining the revolution.
Okay,
in the Herbert-Tiste
fair enough.
sense.
May 25th of 1794, there's an assassination attempt on Robespierre. This was like the second one, I think. In late May, there are two attempts on Robespierre's life. Robespierre survives. Yeah. June 8th of 1794, this is where you have the festival of the Supreme Being.
Yeah.
And it's very elaborate. I'll post some pictures of it, but they like build up this mountain in the middle of this public square, and like Hercules is on top of the mountain, and the 48 sections are all represented and like dressed up in their patriotic uniforms, and the representatives of the convention are also come out and they're dressed up, and there's a band playing, and there's like, I think there's even like a chorus of women dressed in Grecian robes who are just there to like go like every once in a while during the patriotic songs, and just kind of give you the just a vibe, right? And Robespierre like descends from the mountain, like, I'm Robespierre, and
I thought he went the other way. He I thought he
goes up, and then he comes down to comes down from the mount like Prometheus anew,
From my understanding, right, Moses. This wasn't even his fucking idea. It was another guy's idea, and it was like a general thing that they were like all like, we need a new religion, instead of like, we can't just be atheist, we need a new like kind of thing to bond us all, shared cultural values and all that shit. So they were like, all right, we're gonna do this. And then what happens is Robespierre just gets way too out in front of the people, even during the ceremony. Like, they start to realize like he's way out in front and doing too much, and they're like, oh, you think, oh, like, what is this? But like, it wasn't his. He was like, he was against dechristianization and all that stuff. So he was like, but he bought into this and started doing the most. And they built an entire mountain in the middle of Paris.
Maybe not for him, but in the middle of Paris,
and they did the whole ceremony. Everybody like, this is a bit much.
All right, where this is, I don't know about this anymore. And everybody's still kind of like, yay, this is all good, but no, because nobody can publicly say this is kind of crazy.
And you've killed your base. You've killed the people. Well, killed
you've killed a lot of people.
You killed a lot of people. You stunted your base. The Sans-Culottes don't really fuck with you because you've executed the Herbert-Tists. So like, you're just out here looking crazy. And looking real sweet and looking like about the
like he gives a speech, and then there are like all of these allegorical statues made, I think by Jacques Louis David himself, and there's this one statue, a statue of atheism.
Yeah.
And he burns it down, and like this other statue pops out that is wisdom.
Bro, it's
Wisdom
real nasty.
Is the new god.
It is like real like new wavy. There was every type of person in France at this time. Like every single, from like people who owned slaves and like and would hoard bread.
You want to see my crystals, bro?
Pure to the crystals people.
Yeah.
Everybody was.
Yeah.
And they all were like, yeah, let's try to. I can run a government.
Mm-hmm. We'll figure this all out. We'll all get along. We'll iron out our differences. Come to the table. All right. So it's pretty crazy, just to kind of show you how, again, things have devolved, but also how, I don't want to say it would be ironic to use the word unreasonable when the festival is so rational or rationally based or enlightenment based, but it's like you guys have become unreasonable.
It's irrational because the people still don't have the bread, and it's supposed to be a revolution based on the people.
And you guys are assembling all of the sections and have this big ass band, and
fuck are we doing?
People, it's kind of like our demands are not being met, and you're trying to distract us with pomp and ceremony and festival and spectacle.
Yeah,
I'm hungry.
Yeah, and
and you're killing a lot of people. And there's a lot of.
I don't really think people back then had a problem with the death. These people are pretty sick, nasty.
Some people, maybe. I'm not, because there's like a steady increasing amount of executions.
Yeah, no, they're
basically since like 1984 or 1794 begins. Yeah, woohoo, Freudian slip there.
There we go, dude.
A little juiciness. 2 days later, June 10th, 1794, the 22nd of Prairial, Couthon, another member of the Committee of Public Safety, he urges a motion where anyone who slandered patriotism or was spreading fake news or was corrupting the public conscience would be brought before the Revolutionary Tribunal. And these cases, the judge could make one of two decisions, either to acquit or to execute. And like I said, the executions steadily mount over the months. I think the month before Thermidor, there was something around like 800 or so.
Yeah.
And Robespierre, he keeps on kind of insisting that there's an internal conspiracy, but in like the commune and just the people around him generally are saying, but we're winning the war. So how can there be an internal fifth column working for our enemies? Either they're incompetent or you're full of shit.
Yeah.
And eventually he just kind of withdraws from talking to the Committee of Public Safety entirely. And Saint-Just, who's also on the CPS, that's like his emissary. And he'll go to Robespierre's private home and talk to him about what he thinks should be done for the nation of France. And then he'll come down from the mount, so to speak. And it just looks weird.
Yeah.
To the other members of the CPS. So like, are you guys going to do a coup? What's going on?
And they're all, they are all still all angry at you because you took away people from all sides, and they're all thinking about themselves because they all can be killed, and some of them are doing bad things also.
Yeah.
So it's just like this thing of like, we can get rid of, who's next?
Yeah. July 26th, 1794. This is Robespierre's speech at the National Convention because he finally comes out from his isolation. He gives the same speech later at the Jacobins. And he's basically trying to clear his name, and he keeps kind of harping on the same points about like internal fifth columns, and I've always done everything that I can for the good of this nation, and we've come so far, and reiterating. He gives a speech at the Jacobins. They first debate whether or not to even print it. And it's like, that's kind of the first, that opens the door a little bit. That's a pretty small thing.
Yeah.
But it's at least like, it's a critique.
Yeah.
And so once you allow that first critique, once you crack the door open a little bit, then boom, all this other than the poltergeist spreads that thing wide open and comes bursting into the room, right? It devolves into attacks on Robespierre himself. So an anti-Robespierre coalition made up of basically both Hebertists and Indulgence and Dantonist of like, you see horseshoe theory in action here, where they find, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And Robespierre has left himself in the middle, alienated with no friends because he's killed both the left and the right. They mobilize the sections. They order Robespierre and Saint-Just, and I think his coalition, as an outlaw. He's to be arrested. They surround the convention themselves. Robespierre, he's inside of the Committee of Public Safety, which I think met in the Tuileries Palace, and he attempts suicide. And like, I think his little brother, Augustin, he like jumps off of the building, or he like jumps off of a stairwell, and he dies as well. And Robespierre attempts suicide. He shatters his jaw, but he lives. So he's just left kind of completely jawless, which is a weird image for what's going on. 17 Robespierrists, I think on the 28th or the 9th of Thermidor, as it was known, and 83 members of the commune in his cohort are executed. Right before Robespierre dies, the executioner tears off the bandage holding his jaw together so the blade can fall unobstructed. And there are just these bestial wails of agony that explode from Robespierre, only to be silenced by the blade. And that's where we'll end our series on the French Revolution.
Yeah,
the death of Robespierre, with the convenient death of Robespierre.
It's a story.
Yeah,
it goes, it was, we still had some good intentions when it started out, and there was some good intentions still all the way through, considering welfare and stuff. But then they started, we also talk about ancient regime, the violence they perpetrated on, but like at the same time, they was pretty sick with that guillotine.
Yeah,
they're pretty slick with that thing, and they used that efficiently,
throwing that thing around.
And they was not doing trials.
No, they didn't want to hear it.
It was executed. Towards the end there, that law was like, yeah, man, it's either you're not guilty or you gonna die.
Yeah,
and not many people get acquitted, big dog.
Yeah, it's weird to like split hairs on Robespierre because he's a very complex figure, especially toward the end, where you can argue that he was trying to safeguard democracy, and that the whole reason all these executions, that he was fair in executing both the left and the right, making him kind of like a centrist in this weird way, And it was like, I'm just applying the standard evenly and without exception or without excuse, as you should do, as any governing person should do. He was trying to be like mechanical or objective and say like, all right. And again, I'm not like a Robespierre apologist.
Yeah.
I'm currently playing the part of a Robespierre apologist, where he's like, but those executions did mount. Like there was a steady drumbeat. And you can also argue that he might have been really messed up about the death of Danton and having to do that, where the death of the Hebertists, he's like, okay, we need to do this for the good of the revolution. But the death of Danton, he's like, I really didn't want to do that. And he kind of like went a little crazy with guilt after that. It's definitely a factor.
I'm not going to argue whether, what people's decisions or whatever, this is a historical record, and there's multiple books that we've both read. Mm-hmm. But I will say, man, like you're trying to do that, but they were moving it away as if they had the monopoly on violence, and they didn't.
Yeah.
In the monopoly on violence, when you like trying to make shit, go the right way.
Yeah.
If you need that, like if you go like set up a government, you gotta kind of have like, all right, we can be we are the people that like what we can do is we're the people who can take you and do all that stuff. Like, but like this, everybody could do that. And everybody had factions that could like at a moment's notice sweep through.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's confusing. Mm-hmm. It was a lot. I heard about the French Revolution for a long time, and I didn't really jump into it. And I I don't like the French. No, I'm joking. I work for a French company, but
Okay, right on.
but yeah, no, it's an interesting story. And guys, that we want to thank you for listening to part 3 of the French Revolution. It's part 3 in the finale. Henry, I think we got another 3-parter lined up.
That's right.
Next.
That's right.
We want to go ahead and spill. You want
Yeah, man.
put that
We are
juice out there?
passing the baton straight away. The story continues.
Mhm.
We're getting over the agony or triumph of Thermidor, and we're going to be talking about the Napoleonic era through the eyes of none other than Napoleon himself.
Napoleon. Okay. The little corporal.
The Corsican ogre.
Okay. All right. We're gonna have a good time. We'll see you guys next time on Hard Fried History. I've been your host, Joshua Stokes. You follow me at Joshua B. Stokes on Instagram and Twitter. Henry, where can they follow you at?
You can just find me, Henry Price, on Instagram, Milo Hendricks on Twitter, and Henry Price Hard Fried History on Amazon.
Ooh, that's a long one. And guys, you can follow the podcast at Hard Fried History on Facebook, Hard Fried History on Instagram, Hard Fried History on HFH Podcast on Twitter, Hard Fried History on YouTube. Thank you guys for joining us. Come back for the next episode. Go on and just click that. Just go ahead and just go click that next episode. You know you want to stay here.
Keep it going.
And we'll see. And we'll meet you.
You gotta know how it ends. You gotta know what happens.
We'll meet you over there.
France is in chaos right now. Who will come and clean it up?
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun. It's a gardener of sorts.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll talk about it on the next episode. All right.
A regular old Cincinnatus, an earth tiller. Am I right?
All right. We'll see you next time. All right. Bye.